like how you said, a lot of folks, we definitely don't talk about it. And I think we all experience it in different ways, in different points in our life, our business, our career, our family and friendships. It creeps up. It's in there. And leadership too, you talked about when we're leading, and it's just this thing that I think is becoming, we've now named it imposter syndrome, and we are now relating to it in a different way and recognizing that it exists and that it is in most of us. And really what I'm here to talk about to everybody always is that it's a lie. It's a total lie. And so we have to get really good at catching that lie and undoing its hold on us. And a lot of times not a lot of the times, every time, this lie has come from our childhood, from somebody saying something to us or us believing something about ourselves that we then carry into our lives and into our adulthood and into every facet of our existence. And so if we can start to undo that and connect to the lie and replace it with the truth, we begin to loosen its grip on us. And that's what I'm here to talk about. Imposter syndrome shows up in people who have a level of self-awareness. It's the ones that don't have imposter syndrome that often maybe should, that don't have that self-awareness and kind of have this what's what I'm looking for? Just this unawareness that maybe they're not that good, and maybe they really did fluke out and they were just given this. There was some nepotism, there was some politics at play, that they've been given this thing. And the folks that don't have it, that's where we need to be worried. And oftentimes people that do have it have enough self-awareness that they're doing the work internally that makes them so good on the outside. So first of all, if we can just say that having imposter syndrome is a good thing, because it does point to the fact that you are aware that there's room to grow, there's room to evolve, and you are on the right path. The other thing is imposter syndrome really comes out most when we are out of our comfort zones, when we are leveling up in some way in our lives. And so this is, when we talk about most people have it, the other side of that, or the same side of that, is that it never goes away. The more successful that you are, the more that it's going to be there, because it just means that you're continually leveling up and coming out of your comfort zone. And so again, if we can start to see it for the lie that it is, and use it as a marker that we are trying something new and bold and going for something major that's important to us, again, we can reframe the way we look at it as this truth that we're not good, and instead the sign that we're doing something incredible. And I got maybe a little bit of work here on my mindset and self-confidence to deal with that, so I can get through this and continue to move through to the next level.
I'm very curious to know your experience with this. So, say someone is quite self-aware, like myself, for example, I might know that there are certain areas that I don't feel as confident in, or where I do have a bit of self-doubt there. But then even if I think about talking to someone about it, if I suspect that people might think that that's not true, I'm very cautious about how am I going to then be perceived by people? Because if I'm raising this flag, hey, I might not be very good at this thing, to the people who are kind of looking up to me or following me or potentially going to be working with me, it doesn't feel like a productive thing. Whereas on the other hand, I do find that when I push myself to open up a bit more about some of the things I'm struggling with, but I do it from a positive angle, this is something I've been working on and here's what I've been learning, people can relate to it and they do connect with me more. But I find, what do you say about kind of that, finding the balance between when to speak out to help you kind of dispel the myth that you are an imposter, versus keeping it to yourself and working on it internally?
So I'm definitely of the belief that if you're in any kind of leadership role, whether that's paid or unpaid, you generally don't bring your internal work to the people that you're leading. So when you're processing this, you want to think about the tools that you're disposal to be able to help you go through this, whether that's you've got coaches or mentors that you talk to about this stuff. You've got friends who are like your cheerleaders and your hype people who help you just remember that you're very good, and maybe they can share some stories and examples to help you remember. Maybe you have a folder full of testimonials of past, it could be client feedback. It could be, what's what I'm looking for? Not corporate person. Reviews. It could be past reviews from jobs. It could be, even if you're in a leadership role in your career, it could be, cards of appreciation or notes of thanks from your team members. If you have some sort of cache of all these things that you can read, it's really helpful. Journaling is really great, or even just meditating on, what am I feeling in this moment? Can I track this back to another time I felt this? Can I start to see that it's a lie? So that kind of work, that is a you work, and a you with your cheerleaders or professionals work. You don't necessarily bring that down to the people that you're leading, but what you can bring down is your, once you work through it, that shift in perspective, and you can share it in a way that's not about you, but is about them. So are you dealing with self-doubt and imposter syndrome? Here's a story of when I experienced it, and here's the tools that I used to get through it. Here is one simple thing you can do right now. So it's more about, again, still leading and bringing them through it, not you processing your feelings and your issues with them, because that's not the dynamic that you're creating, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I would answer that.
And that's where I think dispelling the myth that so, you feel like you're the only one when you're going through it. And so to me, if I'm experiencing imposter syndrome and then I tell myself, like, don't mention any of this to your clients or the people who you're showing up for because it's not helpful to them, then I think to myself that it doesn't feel authentic to me to kind of keep things inside. And I think the reason for that is like you said, reminding myself that everybody is working on these things. Like, anyone who's growing is going to have growing pains, and that's basically what it is. It's like you're pushing yourself towards the next thing that you haven't done, and then there's these little voices like, you can't do it, you've never done it before, who are you, and those kinds of things. But
and to your point too, I want to hit this before we move on to another point. You talked about, it doesn't feel authentic to not talk to my clients that I'm feeling imposter syndrome. That's not the issue. Imposter syndrome is a lie. Imposter syndrome is your subconscious, your ego lying to you to keep you safe, to keep you small, right? It's a lie. That would be like having a terrible dream about velociraptors being unleashed in your office, and you immediately calling your client to tell them that you're worried that velociraptors are going to invade their office. It's not true, right? It's not real. And so if your imposter syndrome is kicking in and it's preventing you from connecting authentically to your clients, to your peers, whatever the situation is, work on it first. Go talk to somebody, do the internal work first so that you can neutralize it. And then come to your client, come to your peers, to come to your job confident, right? So remember, again, it's not about, I have to share with you that I feel insecure. That's not their burden to bear. That's your work to do. Do the work and then show up in a confident way.